my favorite improvisation exercises is to take a simple melodic motive and approach one of the notes using an approach note pattern. Then I let the sound this creates inspire me to come up with a longer idea using this sound as its core. In my book, Improvising with Motives, I have a whole chapter on using approach note patterns as a motivic development technique. Approach notes is a great way of creating variations on motives or licks, and it can help you create some tension and intensity in your solos. I have already made one lesson here on YouTube on using approach notes as a motivic development technique, but in that lesson I focused mainly on approaching the first note of the motive. In this lesson I'm going to take it a bit further and use approach notes on notes within the motive as well. This will make the motive sound a lot different, but I still think of it as a development of the original motive. Anyway, it can be a great way of finding new sounds using old licks or motives. The motive I'm using in this lesson is this. I'm starting on this note, and then I'm going 2 notes up the scale, and then 1 back again. The scale I'm using here is the G minor pentatonic scale, and I'm moving between 2 positions. That position and this one. So what are these approach note patterns? Approach notes is a note used to approach a target note. A target note can be anything, but in this case it's a note from the motive I'm playing. One of the simplest approach notes you can use is just playing a chromatic note below. That means the lowest note below the note. Now let's try using a chromatic note below on every of the 4 notes in this motive. Let's start with the first one. The second one. The third one. Or the fourth one. Then I'll try to use this to come up with some interesting sounding lines. Using the first one. Or the second one. Or the third one, or the fourth one. There's a lot of possibilities here for what you can add to make a longer line, but just try things out. A variation you can do with a chromatic note from below is to play the target note first, then play the chromatic from below, and then return to the target note. So in essence, you're repeating the target note and using an approach note pattern on the second repeat. It will give you this sound. Or the fourth one. In the opening of this video, I use a variation on this. There I played the approach note pattern on the second note and then continue the motive. Another approach note pattern I like to use here is a double chromatic from above. This means 2 of the closest notes above the target notes. So on the first note of this motive, or the second note, or the third note, or the fourth note. The fourth note you can only play one of the chromatics since you're already playing one of the notes as a part of the motive. Something else I'm playing in the opening of this lesson is based on this. I'm approaching the second note of the motive, that one, with a double chromatic from above. And adding something extra to create that sound. A more complex approach note pattern you can use is to play notes both above and below the target note. One example of this is using diatonic above to chromatic below to target. If I target this note, the starting note of the motive, I can play a diatonic above, chromatic below, target, and then the motive. And targeting the second note, I can play something more interesting with it. And targeting the third note, targeting the fourth note. In this one, I'm already playing a note from above, so I'll just add the chromatic from below. You can also combine this with sequencing. Sequencing means moving the motive around in the scale. When the pattern is this, I can also play it one note lower in the scale. I'm starting on a note, going 2 notes higher in the scale, and back again. I'm just starting in a different place. Or here. Or... and so on. Another thing I played in the opening solo was moving the motive down here and down here. On this last one, I approached both the first and second notes, creating a complex line of it. On the first note, I approached it with a double chromatic from above, but I also approached the second note, this one, with a diatonic above to a chromatic from below. If I combine approaching the first note with a double chromatic from above and the second note with a diatonic from above to a chromatic from below, I get this. Lots of possibilities with that one. If you want to know more about this, check out my book Improvising with Motives. There's a link in the description below. Here's a backing track to try out some of these ideas yourself.